Welcome everybody, it's great to see you all, and welcome to October conference, all about making your budget work to support international activities. I think very much people are focusing on budgets and economies at the moment and how we're going to make things stretch, isn't it? So, and that is definitely a worldwide issue. So I just wanted to introduce the Global School Alliance, we are hosting this at the moment. And if you're not a member, why aren't you a member? Because basically it's a fantastic worldwide community. It's free to join. And we're all here basically with the same vision of improving education for students, improving the outcomes by collaborating, communicating, connecting around the world, sharing best practice. And we have some great speakers today, and we have some amazing inspirational members too who are very willing to share their expertise. So we want to help develop this global aspect and this global dimensions to everybody's curriculum, to help create citizens of the world, to help these students have the skills they need to be part of a global society now. So the aim of the Global School Alliance is to provide to enable and facilitate those connections, provide some opportunities through programs and awards and tools that you can use to help develop that. So to almost be a sort of one-stop place to get together to help encourage global education around the world and improve it. And again, have been looking at funding aspects as funds have disappeared around the world and opportunities are shifting and changing and the funds are not available. We are also, this is another reason for today, to try and find ways that you can make budget stretch or make budgets, prioritize budgets to show the value of what you're learning. Like I say, we have our free opportunities, as in the membership is free. We have an amazing platform which we are ongoing developing, guys, so bear with us, but there's lots of new exciting things to come on the platform. We obviously still have the Facebook page, the LinkedIn page, lots of ways that you can network and connect with other members. We are developing out our joint project space, so if you wanted to post a project on there or look for a project to connect with, you can do that through the platform. There's lots of newsfeed information to be kept up to date with each other, but also with what's happening as events like this. Some great blog posts, some great resources from some amazing people in our faculty who have got some inspirational ideas to share with you. We have the primary and secondary councils, student councils. That's where we give the students some voice. We've got some brilliant projects going on in there at the moment. The secondary council are meeting again on the 10th of November. They decided themselves on the projects they wanted to do, and the project they're doing this term is about economic champions. They've decided they would like more financial education for each other, so they have put themselves forward as a student council group to develop an economic champion idea to help their peers out with finance, which I think is so amazing to come from these, these teenagers. It's fantastic. The primary council are doing a project on biodiversity, so they're looking at climate but they're looking at biodiversity in their school and their school grounds and how they can help support the natural plants and those things. So it's some amazing things going on with students, lots of live interactions, which I think is great fun. So again, this is another way of keeping up to date with what we're doing and what you can get involved in, the latest opportunities. So it's worth joining just to be kept up to date with everything and seeing what would suit you, if you see what I mean. Like we'd said with looking at funding, we're putting together our program to help develop education. So we've put together a framework using our awards program to help schools develop your global dimensions, from an introduction to raising awareness about global aspects, to getting students involved online, to actually getting the physical travel started where they get those immersive experiences and international travel experiences. So we put together a program now to try and encourage you to do that, and making the funding to do it reimbursable at the end. So obviously we need a commitment from you that you're actually going to do it, but you get the funds back at the end once you've achieved gold level accreditation. And there's lots more to come on our accreditation and award scheme, which John is very kindly developing out more for us, based on his wonderful expertise through the British Council. So like I say, it's free to join the platform. You do need to register on the platform to access it. You can register for the events like this to make sure you don't miss any. These are recorded and saved on the platform as well, so you can see previous conferences, which have been some great themes going on. And there are links here obviously to join the student council. We recommend you join as a teacher, so you've got your email address for connections, but also to join with an email address from the school, so the school has that connection. So in case obviously teachers sometimes move on, we want the school to keep that connection, and teachers, when you move on, we obviously want you to keep you in part of the community. So we want everyone to be still within our community, wherever you are. So everybody around the world is welcome. As like we've heard today, once you're a teacher, you're never a teacher. You're always into education. You're always focused. Always got your teacher head on to think how you can help students and progress. So the agenda for today, I'm doing my introduction now. Then we've got some amazing speakers for you. And like I say, as normal, the way we connect, we suggest you use the chat, introduce you on the chat, say hi, tell us where you're from. And like I say, if you have any questions for the speakers, you can either put your hand up, or the best idea really is to drop it in the chat. We'll keep an eye on the chat. So at the end of a speaker's presentation, we can pull out some relevant questions and ask them, or we could ask you to ask them yourself. And we'll have a big Q&A session at the end as well, where you can ask all the speakers if they can manage to stay with us to the end, if you have any questions. So please connect using the chat. Share your comments again. I think we are live as well, so you can share it on social media. But the whole point is to network and share and communicate with each other. I think that's what we're here to enable, really. And we do like to make it interactive. And those of you who've been before know that I like to pick on you, make you smile a minute. So we are going to take a photo in a minute, but we also want your opinion. So we've got a poll today on how important international activities are within your school. Do your school, when planning budgets, consider international activities? So I think, Hannah, are you able to put that live so that we can get some feedback from the people who are with us? So we would very much like you to answer this poll, to give us some ideas. Are we live? Sorry, because I'm sharing my screen.
Yeah, we're live now.
Fantastic. And I actually can't see the results either. So you're going to have to tell me the results at the end. We'll give you a few minutes to put your answers in. So when planning budgets, are international activities very important and considered? Only just considered, or not considered very important at all? So again, we would like your feedback on that. Wonderful. I can't see as most people had a chance to give their opinion, Han?
Yeah, should close that.
Fantastic. Yes, can you share the results? You'd have to tell me, because again, I can't see it for some reason.
You see them? No.
I can't see the results. It's a bit frustrating when I'm sharing screen. I can't see the results. So you're going to have to tell me the results. I'm sorry. So what are the percentages? Can John or Hannah?
43% very important. 48% considered, 9% not very important.
Wow. You know what? That is fantastic. That is better than I expected. I'm really pleased that virtually half of the schools do think it important to think about international activities, which is a wonderful news. So thank you for sharing that. It's great to see around the world that it is still considered important to have those international connections and be connected to the rest of the world. I mean, I think we're all here because we realize that, don't we? So this is, like I said, the time when I bully you and say you can't sit there without your camera on, at least not for this minute. So I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to ask you all to practice your smiles. Turn your cameras on. I will allow you to turn it off again afterwards if you must. But we are going to put it on gallery view, and we'd like to see all your lovely faces and your lovely smiles. And we're going to take a few screenshots of you to say hi. So let's give you 2 minutes to practice your smiles, brush your hair, turn your cameras on, and then I'll stop nagging you. I can still see people with no cameras on. Come on, a couple more minutes and then we'll take care. Even if that's it. Wonderful. I can see more people. Thank you. It's great. Lovely to see you all, and welcome. Welcome from all over the world. I can see some familiar faces and some new ones, which is fabulous. Okay, we're just going to take a couple of photos of you. So we're all going to say smile. I always have my mouth open and my eyes closed. It's always me that ruins the shot. So right, okay, Hannah, are we taking a few photos?
Yeah, good.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, guys. You can hide if you like, but it's nice to see you. And it helps the speakers when they can see who they're talking to as well. It does make a difference. So I'm actually going to now hand over to John to introduce our amazing speakers. We have a wonderful lineup of people from all over the world for you. So John, are you okay are you going to share the screen, or would you like me to carry on sharing and you just which way around? Would you prefer to
carry on sharing away, Tony? Thank you.
Okay, I'll share and you can introduce the amazing speakers.
That was a great introduction, Tony. Thank you. And a big hello to all our community of amazing educators across the globe. Delighted to introduce 5 wonderful speakers who will be sharing their hints, tips, strategies, expertise about ensuring that internationalism and languages have a central place in school budgeting. So it's hello to Wendy. Hello, Wendy. Wendy Decourt.
Hi.
Wendy is a hugely experienced global consultant and executive member of the UK Global Learning Association. 30 years teaching in mainstream and special needs education. Wendy's written a range of international resources and delivered CPD across Europe and the Sub-Saharan Africa region. Special commitment to highlighting how the Sustainable Development Goals can be included in all aspects of teaching and learning. So great to have you involved, Wendy. And it's hello to Barry, our wonderful head teacher from Belfast. Barry Corrigan is the principal of Millennium Integrated Primary School in Belfast, an expert educator for Microsoft and passionate commitment to integrated education. He's always been involved in innovative and inclusive education across primary schools and supported the introduction of Teach Meet. I think many of us are aware of the great Teach Meet way of bringing together educators, and was a great supporter for our mental health and wellbeing work recently for British Council in Lebanon. So fantastic to have you with us.
Guys, can we stay muted? Sorry, so that we can hear. When you admit, can you just stay muted? Thank you. Sorry, John.
Not at all. Hello, Louisa. Great to have you with us. Louisa was a head teacher in her native Portugal and a consultant for modern foreign languages, a specialist in inclusion and multiculturalism, and has worked with a range of universities and embassies to support the introduction of languages. A key supporter of Lambeth's Ethnic Minority Achievement Team in South London, and a great experienced supporter of Comenius and Erasmus. We remember those days, Louisa. Speaks about 7 languages, is it, Louisa? 7, 8 languages, and contributes to her great work to a range of conferences and workshops. So great to have you with us, Louisa. And last but certainly not least, hello, Moldova, and a big thank you and welcome to the wonderful Rob Ford and Tatiana Poper from Heritage International School. Rob is the director of Heritage International School in Moldova, and previously principal of Wydeen Secondary School in Gloucester, and supported IB schools, the International Baccalaureate network of schools across England, and a senior leader of schools across the UK. Great supporter of the Global School Alliance and writes articles for TES, and a key part of the Varkey UNESCO Global Network. So, wow, great to have you with us, Rob. And hello, Tatiana. Tatiana is the head of global education and hybrid learning at Heritage International School, a long-time eTwinning ambassador and teacher trainer for Moldovan educators and indeed globally. And congratulations, Tatiana was shortlisted for the Global Education Influencer Global Award in 2021 and participates widely in global conferences and webinars. So 5 wonderful speakers who will share their experiences of the importance of maintaining internationalism when planning your school budgets. So without further ado, it's over to Wendy. Hello, Wendy.
Sharing, Wendy, if you'd like to take the screen.
Hello, everybody. I'll just share my screen if I can. Just 1 minute. I'll get there. Can everybody see that? Thank you.
Wendy.
Brilliant. So as John said, I started out as a teacher, teacher of music actually in a high school, then moved on to teaching music in a special school and doing a lot of music therapy, and then ended my teaching career, did 16 years in a primary school, and it's mainly there where I decided I had this passion for global education and internationalism. So I'm just trying to, is that better now? I'll just go back a little bit more. So I left teaching 10 years ago, and I'm now an executive member of UK GLASS. It does say there UL GLASS, but it should say UK GLASS. We are independent global consultants that have come together. We're like-minded people, we're all ex-teachers, and we have this passion for making sure that schools are incorporating into their curriculum global and international work. I've assessed for the International Schools Award through the British Council, and I still drive, that is a driving force. I'm also linking schools with schools around the world, and have written some training packages and delivered CPD to teachers in the UK, face-to-face and online more recently, but also face-to-face in Europe and in sub-Saharan African countries. So my main passion is the global side of it, the global issues that, you know, we should all be thinking about. And I think we do all think about them every day. We are faced with these issues like climate change and poverty, gender equality, and, you know, peace. That is a massive one at the moment as well. So without further ado, I will carry on. Just thinking about funding here in the UK, we've had, and I'm sure it's true around the globe, but we've had most of our funding opportunities cut, and the only two available at the moment is the UK-German connection, which is brilliant. That association, find you a partner school if you've not got one, and then there are funding opportunities for pupil exchange visits. The other one, sadly, we're no longer able to do the connecting classrooms, which took us around the world, or we can't do Erasmus, which was Europe based. And that to me is the greatest loss. We've lost that, and we've lost the platform that was attached to it called eTwinning. The government came up with their version of this two schemes kind of put together called Turing, which does allow schools and other like colleges and universities to apply for funding for the mobilities, the visits, working on projects, but it's only one way. It isn't reciprocal, which is a little sad. I've been quite successful in helping schools achieve both these, get funded through Turing and get funded through the UK-German connection. I've just got a few photographs. There's some more information about the Turing scheme. So it's not limited to Europe like Erasmus, it's anywhere in the world. It's part of the Levelling Up agenda, and it can be projects that you do with your schools, either focusing on language and culture or around the SDGs. So this was a group of students earlier this year from two inner city schools in Liverpool that link with schools in Madrid. Some of these children haven't even been into the city centre of Liverpool, let alone get on a plane. So it was a massive, massive adventure for them, and how they cope with it, brilliantly, I would say. While we were in school, we had the opportunity to involve the rest of the school by doing a Zoom assembly back to them. So everybody was included, not just the 12 pupils that got to travel. And like I said, the UK-German connection, again, this is something that when I'm working with schools, I do highlight, because you get a partner school, there's funding, there's different projects that they can do on their website, there's digital platforms that you can access, And again, it's from primary all the way through to university. And the visits are reciprocal, which to me is better than the touring one. So thinking about budgets in your schools and, you know, thinking about the poll that we did at the beginning, how important is global and international education? And to me, it is the most important subject. And unfortunately, not all schools see it like that. When I started out 10 years ago, I was already the international lead at the school I was working at. And I wondered, how was I going to go about getting other schools involved and to become as passionate as I am? So the first thing I did, and I think this is the way forward, is I had one head teacher in Knowsley that I was very, you know, okay, friendly with, on a professional level. We got on, we had the same ideas. And I messaged him and said, I wanted to do a presentation at the head teacher's annual conference. And he said, fine, we will give you 15 minutes. And from that, every school signed up and said, yeah, they could see the value in it. They liked the, you know, what was available, the opportunities, engaging all the pupils on collaborative projects. Since then, there's been a lot more CEOs and MATs evolving. So I always make sure that I get to visit them. And then from there, it filters down. And as you know, the senior leadership team, if you've got one member who is really, really on board with this, then there isn't an issue. It will filter down. If you can't get to speak with head teachers and CEOs, because sometimes there's always gatekeepers, if you don't have those personal contacts, then another way is going to the MFL department. And I think this is really, really useful, because quite often when you go into schools, it's the modern foreign languages teacher that have the dual role, and they are also the international and global coordinator as well, because some schools see it as a dual thing, and give them the joint responsibility, as happened with me when I was teaching. I was in charge of French and also had this role of global and international coordinator. So going back to, if you know somebody in the MFL, you know, who's a modern foreign languages teacher, they have cluster network meetings. It's always good to get yourself involved in their network meetings and push the global side and the international, making the foreign languages more authentic by having a partner school and working on small projects, either language or again linked to the SDGs. And also interesting, all the MFL, even at primary level, have a budget, and it doesn't have to be used on buying French dictionaries or Spanish games for the pupils to play. You know, if they've already got a certain amount of those resources, then why not use it on expanding the global side of the curriculum? Since the pandemic, it seems to be more and more people are quite all right with doing this kind of thing, talking in a webinar, having meetings online, because it's been forced upon us. Prior to 2019, if I went into a school and said, look, why don't you do an assembly? Teachers were like, oh, I don't know if we could do that because of, you know, parents not liking it, not wanting their pupils to be seen. But since then, because we've had to work from home, because we have this hybrid learning, and people are more au fait with using Zoom or Team, then when I go into schools now, they're like, yes, that's fine. You know, I will link with South Africa and we will do a joint assembly, or we'll share our collaborative work. So I think digital first, and then if you get the opportunity to use your budget or to get some extra funding, then go for the mobilities and doing the exchange. So I think everybody is probably aware of these 17 goals. Like I said earlier, you know, this is what I like to show to the schools, because quite a lot of teachers that I'm working with still haven't seen these 17 logos, which I find quite shocking, really. And I will say, well, you know, these were agreed back in 2015, I think, by our government and by other, I think 192 nations all signed up to improve every one of these by 2032. I don't know what it's like in other countries, but in our country, there was no funding available to get this across into schools. It wasn't highlighted as a priority. However, through British Council programmes like the Connecting Classroom and like Erasmus, I've been able to go and deliver training. I've written courses linked to these, and going into school and saying, what, you know, in the science department, what are you teaching about, you know, reducing the impact of waste and things like that? And they'll go, oh yeah, we're doing that. And I'm like, well, you know, that's that goal. And what you doing about climate change or things like that, that's goal 13. Oh yeah, we do that. And in geography, we talk about water. So that's hitting another goal. In primary schools, sometimes they do a news hour where they're looking at news round, especially for children. And I know it's in tutorial times in high schools where they look at current problems and issues around the world. And it's just making them aware that whilst they're doing that, they're also hitting these goals. So I say, print these off. You can print them off A4 size and stick them on your notice board or your display board if that's the topic you're dealing with. And also I've created all these little 17 logos into stickers. So I know in primary school pupils love stickers. So if they're learning about world peace or learning about the Ukrainian war at the moment, they get a little sticker so it can remind them and make them very aware of what the goals are. Another thing that I ask the international and global coordinators to do is to look at the whole school curriculum long-term planning and see if they can cross-reference it with these goals, and then to have a staff meeting to share that work. If they've already got a partner school, then we think about action planning, what collaborative project that they want to do, if it hits any of these goals. If they've got funding, it's normally a project that's lasting 12 months, maybe 24 months. And if it isn't, we might just limit it to half a term. There's lots of free resources. If you just Google SDGs, free resources, lots pop up. The British Council have some, but there's also the, I've just forgotten it, the world's biggest lesson, is that right? I think so, something like that. That has loads of good videos, free resources that teachers can just tap into. I think the biggest resource and the best resource is getting time to carry this out. Obviously, if you've embedded it into your curriculum, then you can see the cross-reference between the global work and what you're already teaching. If you're new to it, then it's asking your SLT for half a day, a month, to commit to your action planning and making sure that you are meeting whatever's written on your action plan. If you're doing a project, or if you're signposted another year group to carry out a collaborative project, being able to go and sit with those members of staff and say, how's it going? And giving suggestions. I think it is the most important thing, having that time. And when I'm going into schools, it is the one thing that staff complain about. They don't have enough time because of all the other commitments. So that's probably where I'm at. And I'm just going to finish by giving you my email address. You can find me on Twitter. The association that I'm part of is UK Glass. Got the K in it this time and not the L. And our director is Linda Barker, and that's her email address as well. So thank you very much.
Great, thank you, Wendy. Hello, audience. Are there any initial questions for Wendy before we move on? Okay, thank you, Wendy. Moving on now to Barry Corrigan. Hello, Barry. Hello, Northern Ireland. Over to you.
Good afternoon, everybody, and I'm delighted actually to be following through there and listening to everything that Wendy said. I'm hoping today to give you a bit of perspective of education from Northern Ireland and how then that feeds into addressing some of the funding issues that we have as well. I maybe will deal a bit more in regards to Northern Ireland context and give you a bit of an overview of education within Northern Ireland, because maybe it gets lost in the news and what you hear from Northern Ireland. I will also try to slow down slightly because I'm very assured that my Northern Ireland accent doesn't carry very well around the world. So apologies to begin with. So I'm going to go do all the wizardry on this side and do screen sharing, and I promise you that it will all work effectively at this point. Well, so I've been told, but John, I'm leaving that entirely in your hands. So I was asked to give a profile picture. They didn't say which type of profile, so I leave that entirely in all of your own hands as well. But I've been principal in Millennium Integrated Primary School for about 6 years. This is the start of my 6th year. And prior to that, I was in here as teacher for 11 years. So it's been quite a long journey. And part of what we're doing then is to bring my own thoughts of globalization into the school from a leadership point of view. The pandemic, of course, has had quite an impact in that respect and how we're taking things, but we will slowly but surely come back to a level of normality from the back of it. I've been very fortunate to work in the past with the British Council, as John has alluded to, and I've also worked with Microsoft as well, and I've represented both organisations on a local, national, and fortunately on an international stage as well. So I'm hearing countries and noticing a lot of your countries popping up on the screen. I've been very fortunate to visit quite a number of them on the back of the work that I have done in the past. And I've been fortunate enough to spread the message of internationalization as well. Now, if anybody would like to stop me and say I'm too fast, I fully understand that at the moment. So, who am I? Where do I come from? And what do we do? Northern Ireland, you hear about it on the news probably quite a lot, and you might hear quite a lot of things about it. The political side of it is very, very simple. Northern Ireland is part of the United Kingdom. So a lot of things you heard Wendy said earlier on in regards to access to international funds would also be applicable for ourselves within Northern Ireland. So we've Northern Ireland, England, Scotland, and Wales. You can see, of course, we are part of the island of Ireland, but you will also see that small border running around that demarcates ourselves between the rest of Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, and the United Kingdom. And if you look very carefully on the second screen, you are the second, just on the outskirts of Belfast. Northern Ireland synonymous. When you say and it's usually travel time within an hour and a half. We are about 20 minutes outside of Belfast as it stands. So we are quite a busy school. We have nearly 400 children in the school. And if we include our nursery children, we have over 400 children in So, apologies, I'll come back in a second. The budget within Northern Ireland is actually the lowest of the 4 countries within the United Kingdom. So out of England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, Scotland would have the highest spend per child, and Northern Ireland would be at the bottom of that. Yet we are still charged with delivering a high quality curriculum across for our children. So part of that is against, and some figures that have has been that the budget for education within Northern Ireland has increased by 17% in over the past 10 years. However, the cost of employing staff and employing teachers has risen by 26% over those 10 years. So that disconnect immediately puts a lot of pressure onto schools. And therefore, when we look at larger projects and we start looking at international links, one of the things people think about is how can we afford it? And I totally understand that our budgetary concerns may be very different to some of the budgetary concerns that you would have in your own countries. And we will talk about some of the things that we do. And we are very fortunate in regards to the level of technology and the level of infrastructure that we have within the school itself. So this is information from some of the local censuses that was just recently done. Northern Ireland has a population of just under 2 million. And culturally, it breaks itself down into people who come from a Catholic background, people who come from a Protestant background, and then we have others and none. And why I'm bringing that up is because that is largely reflective of our school system. We have a school system that is reflective of the cultures, and therefore it causes duplication across Northern Ireland. That duplication means then that the finite budget is actually spread even thinner. And because of that spread, access to those resources becomes more difficult. So what happens within the Northern Ireland is that in our sector, we would have a maintained sector, and that would be children who would mainly come from a Catholic background. And we have a control sector, which would be mainly children coming from a Protestant background. My school is an integrated school. We were deliberately set up to give children the experience of coming to school together from both of those backgrounds. And it's important that that makes us stand out and slightly unique. So we start with that idea of learning about each other from within the school grounds, not from going across schools or starting to look out. And part of the conversations I've had in the past is very, very interesting, that it's easier for us to do collaborations and partnerships with schools who are maybe around the world than it is to have those partnerships with schools that are maybe down the road. And when I talk about duplication, I talk about maybe small towns and villages would have 2 schools, and those 2 schools are actually to take into consideration the background of our Catholic children and then to take in the background of Protestant children. It could be at opposite ends of a street in Northern Ireland. We would hope that at a point with the shared education project and eventually through integrated education, that those barriers would be broken down, and therefore the idea of going for internationalism would help as well. Quick overview of the Northern Ireland education system. I'm sure it's no different to what goes on with yourselves, but a lot of our children can start from the age of 3 and they turn 5 in their first year of formal education. And all schools do the same curriculum until the children are 14. There's an entrance test for children at the age of 11. And that entrance test, it's effectively an academic selection process by which children go into schools that would be called grammar schools, and they would consider themselves academically driven, or they would go into secondary or non-selective schools, which are equally as driven, but sometimes they're coping with a wide variety of needs within those children who haven't passed the academic entrance criteria of the grammar schools. And it is a bit of an oddity, in fact, that the whole education system within Northern Ireland is driven on that. But there are some schools that in a small bubble of the education, they don't have that as a test. Not all schools have to have the test. It's just part of their entrance criteria. But what's really important is that they follow the same curriculum until the age of 14. And there's a reason why I'm giving you a bit of this background, because it'll take you through how we can save money in regards to the, getting involved in global connections. And some of the websites that you will have access to these as well. And I noticed what Wendy said, what Tony said earlier about the Global School Alliance, was that the post-primary pupils were talking about doing financial capability and budgeting, and we have that built into our curriculum within Northern Ireland. So this is one of the joys of the curriculum that we have. So this is, in effect, the big picture of the Northern Ireland curriculum. And it is an excellent picture. It gives you a good insight to what goes on. Oh, I have lost my screen there, for apologies for a second. Hopefully I'll come back here in a second. And that picture, it's gone off the eye. So thankfully I'm back. So that picture shows you what we can do across with our children. And that is consistent the whole way through, from the age of 4 up to the age of 14. And you can see that before you get into the areas of learning of the arts, language, literacy, mathematics, numeracy, and so on, there are 3 cross-curricular skills, and that's something I'm going to focus on, between communication, using mathematics, and using ICT. So if we look into what we do as a school, the curriculum there gives a lot of encouragement and permission for teachers to investigate connections through the use of using ICT. And what we have in using ICT is a mechanism called exchange. So while the phone continues to go in the background, I'll have an opportunity to bring it up. And you will see how we have an opportunity to use the curriculum to its full. So here is using ICT, and I'll go back to Wendy's point from earlier, and I think this is really important. The digitization of the curriculum has been massive, and those people who had been concerned about using digital tools were suddenly left with no other option, and became more familiar through the idea of having to use those tools to reach children within their own classrooms, and that's given permission and experience for going beyond their classroom. So you will see within the curriculum of using ICT, and I think that's an important aspect, it's using ICT. You will see one that is called exchange. And this relates to communicating with others online to share and develop ideas. It can include sending and receiving emails, video conferencing, contributing to online discussions, or collaborating with digital tools. So think about what you had there at the very beginning in that conversation. How important is collaboration across your curriculum? This is baked into the Northern Ireland curriculum through the use of using ICT. And it's a very, very important aspect of the curriculum in that point, because what you get is no excuses for not taking it on. And we would encourage teachers to start small. They maybe do communications and collaborations between partner schools, and then we get them to move out. So one of my classrooms, for example, has a good conversation, happens with the Clontuscart National School in the Republic of Ireland as well. And I have talked about what life was like in Northern Ireland compared to what life was like in the Republic of Ireland at the time. So the fact that it's built into the curriculum is vital, because it says that we're able then to our teachers, you can do this, and there's a lot in there for you to take from it. Now, I'll come back to my presentation, hopefully, and you get a chance to see. So that's within the using ICT strand. And as I that is from 4 right through to 14, the world around us. And if I just go back to that one, you can see that is one of our areas of learning. And the world around us in that respect is our geography, our history, and our science. And they're all brought together. But the fact that it's called the world around us talks about the local, national level, and then it brings it out to a global level. And I'm delighted that we talked about the Sustainable Development Goals previously, because all this is going to do is obviously bring you to those resources as well. But again, this is something that I would like to have baked into my curriculum with the teachers. And my World Around Us coordinator has brought this to the attention. So there's a lot out there that's free, and we can develop collaboration at that time. And you can see that within the Sustainable Development Goals and the World's Largest Lesson, that children can become more aware of their place within the world and how they can have an impact on what goes on. And again, I come back to it was interesting to see about the primary children in the Global School Alliance talking about biodiversity. And we have an eco committee who meet on a monthly basis. And I genuinely think this is something that I would like them to come back and talk about as well. So I do appreciate getting that opportunity, Tony. So that's something that... Finally, communication within the Northern Ireland curriculum is a great aspect. Skills are broken down into 3 different areas. Those 3 different areas, of course, are reading, writing, and talking and listening. But the talking and listening aspect of it, again, gives permission for our teachers within get involved in collaboration and online work, because there's that level of communication that is needed. They need to think about the questions they can ask, and they need to listen and hear and learn about the other areas that they're exploring. And so far, we've done quite a bit for my P3 class, which would be 7 and 8-year-olds, have been looking at the theme of space, and I've spoken to some astronomers, working in planetariums around the world, which is a great thing for them to see that this is in their classroom, and it brings through. And again, it's free. We don't always have to go spending a lot of money for it to be important. So how do we do that? We're very fortunate within Northern Ireland. We have a managed service from the Education Authority, and that managed service then is charged with procuring hardware for schools, which brings out every school within Northern Ireland up to a minimum level of hardware, and that then is reflected across the school. We have money within our budgets if we need to buy any more. We're also fortunate that we have Microsoft 365 licenses handed out to all the schools. So Teams is at our fingertips as well, and more territories are getting access to that also. That means with collaborative documents that can be used within Outlook, that can be used within OneDrive, and of course Word, where more and more collaboration could easily be built between schools with shared documents in OneDrive or a shared Microsoft team, and therefore a lot of people can work together, and the children can easily see how those connections can be made and how quickly they can work as well in the classroom. And I've been really delighted with some ideas where one of my P5 teachers, for example, they looked at their journey from home to school, and they compared that with a couple of schools around Europe, and they were able to share photographs, give the presentations on Teams, and the children could see each other's work. We too have also suffered, we've lost the E20, and that's been a massive loss to regards to the schools within the United Kingdom. And I really regret the fact that that has happened, because it was such an easy way in. So now we as a school have to use the tools ourselves. As you may have Teams before, and some of you have used Zoom, of course, as well, it's really important to have tools that work and tools that are easy. And I have really advocated the use of Teams from a long time ago. I would also bring to the point, and I think it's very important now, and maybe I should have done it within my own PowerPoint, but you can actually translate live within a PowerPoint presentation. And that translation could maybe overcome some of the language barriers that schools could have between territories. I have tried it out when we had visitors to school, and it worked very well. And it can also be done through the app, the Bing Translate app, and people can actually have different experiences through translation on a live level, and that can work through Teams as well. So the tools are there for us to use. schools are no good without having the teachers. So one of the big decisions I have taken in school is educating the teachers and giving them permission through continuing professional development so that they have opportunities to go out. Through the Erasmus program, to which there's still access, for example, we're developing more and more languages within the school. And those teachers have had the opportunity to build up conversations with other colleagues around Europe. What's been good for me is they can then go and see how they can lead other staff. All the areas that we talked about there within ICT, within the world around us and communication, I have given people leadership responsibilities from the school. I have invested within them, but they know that I like to look on an international level, see how they can use those skills across the school. That's a simple and an easy investment. Sometimes we were able to actually able to pay them, of course. Sometimes it could be done for professional development for teachers as well. So there are many, many different ways that I think that working with a global level can, coming from a territory that is the lowest finance territory as well, I think we do an exceptional job on that. And I hope that has given you a nice overview and an understanding of where Northern Ireland sits at this time. And I'm going to stop my share, and I'm going to pray that all of you saw all of that and you just weren't looking at a blank screen for the past 15 minutes.
Great. Thank you, Barry, for that wonderful presentation. And again, a huge thank you for all you've done to support globally aware young people across the globe as well. Any questions or reflections for Barry before we move on? No, I see your faces here, but yeah, many, many thanks, Barry. Okay, we move across now to from Belfast to South London, and hello, Louisa.
Hello, thank you so much for inviting me for this wonderful conference. I have to say the plans that you have for your school are amazing. I wish that I had more head teachers with you to work with, to be honest. So would you be able to share my presentation, please? I can't see it yet. Sorry, Hannah or John. Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Sorry, that's me. I'll set it up now for you. Beg your pardon.
Oh, thank you, Tony. Thank you so much. So there I am. I've been a head teacher in Portugal, moved 20 years ago to London, and I said I was going back to Portugal the year after, and I'm still here. So it must be something in the air, the good weather probably in South London. So I've started my work as an advisor for inclusion and a specialist in Portuguese pupil achievement, which then led into Spanish pupil achievement. And later on, I was invited to be also Mother of Languages advisor. I've been working across London, United Kingdom, but also outside, across Europe, Portugal, Spain, Italy, France, wherever the work takes me, and also South America and a few countries in Africa. I am very keen on working across with a lot of organizations. So I do work with embassies that speak these languages, and also work with local authorities and British Council. I'm very happy to say that John invited me and was being always supporting me throughout all these projects and conferences that I organized, and any workshops, events, training, and I'm also a British Council ambassador. I have been involved in projects, international projects, run by Comenius, Erasmus, but also Arts Council, any grant that I see available, I'm there and I go for it. So, I know funding is essential to schools, even more than before. And for me, when I work with a school or a local authority, I know what is expected from me, and I do try to give the best opportunities to the children that we work with and work for. And I speak different languages, and I don't know if there is anything else that I should say, John, about me. All good. So if we could move on to the next one, Tony. I gave you, I put an example of the work that I've been doing, only mentioning my initial one, which was started with Portuguese-speaking countries around the world. And then because of the impact that I was having across the borough and the schools and in London, I was then starting to extend it to French-speaking countries, to Spanish-speaking countries. And as you can imagine, then Italy came along, German as well, and there it was. This was just the starting point. So if we could move on for the next one. So I've created a very simple PowerPoint of how I approach every school and how I approach the local authority. I do tend to have an initial meeting with the member of the representative of the local authority or the member that represents the school. Usually the head teacher is my main contact to start with. If it is federations, I do meet the chair of the federation, or I do meet the main executive head, where I try to understand what basically their wishing list. I tell them that they should make me my wishing list and I will make that come through, which is sometimes too much to say, but I do try my best. And so I do tend to ask them to see as the project is not a burden to the school, but it is a facilitator to deliver the curriculum, but also to raise the achievement and the attainment of all pupils. And it is indeed a way for any child comes from any background, being at a level of minority, inclusion, or social economic status, to have an opportunity to develop, to learn a new languages, and the new language will open better possibilities at work in their future lives. And also how much we develop this globally awareness, they become citizens of the world and more conscious of the role that we all have to play nowadays. I do ask the head teacher to give me data of the community they serve, to know more about the figures that they have to deal with, not only at the level of their background, the student's background, but also their level of achievement, and to understand the faith, the values that they have in the school, so we can adapt the projects to the needs of each school and to the identity of each school. In particular, I give a lot of emphasis of learning languages from primary to secondary, two completely different settings. I was reading some of your comments, and it is true, primary schools, in particular small ones, struggle because there's no funding for anything. You know, they are removing teaching assistants from classrooms. It's sometimes a teaching assistant is shared amongst 3-4 classrooms. And there's no funding for languages, for inclusion, even for special needs. And also the contact person in there, that's why I prioritize it, is the head teacher. And then the head teacher selects which is going to be my contact person once he made the decision of what projects does he want to do and how does he want to take all the international work and all the languages in the school. With secondary schools, my approach is slightly different because, as Wendy said, there's always the Department for Modern Foreign Languages, but I also work with SENCOs and Inclusion and EAL, depending on the school. If the school is a school that has got a large number of children coming from different minorities, which happens a lot in London, as some of you can imagine, we have people coming from all over the world. Just in Lambeth, 80% of our community is mostly coming from a different background, being second generation now. And so the numbers then change according to the trends of Brexit now. Brexit had a huge impact with the boroughs that I work with. and we do see a change in which communities are we serving at the moment. Then again, when I work with the schools, sometimes there are the members of staff that are most active can be from a different background. They are drama teachers, art teachers, and I also ask if those subjects can be involved because all the international work that we do has got, in general, a lot of art, a lot of expressions, ICT. So I do try to create like a core member of specialists in the school to run the projects. Also, something that I've got to bear in mind is the parents of those children. Once the projects are already in place, I do try to get involved the parents in the school, and sometimes I'm very lucky to have parents from those countries that we are linking with, who then also help to disseminate the project, also contribute with ideas, as well as governors. The governing bodies is sometimes forgotten, but I do speak to governing meetings, and I do speak to general meetings that the borough holds for governors about all these projects. And it is so interesting to see, once we involve the governing body in these projects, the projects become much more part of the curriculum than before. Also, when we do this, I always try to plan with the head teacher. Once the funding is gone, how are we going to continue the funding after it's gone?
I'm sorry, Louisa, we seem to have lost your sound. I'm not sure what happened there.
And now can you hear me?
Yes, that's better.
Okay. So where did you stop listening to me? Did you hear the part about the governors?
Yes, it was to the beginning of the governor's bit. Yes.
Okay. So I have meetings with the governing bodies or all the chairs of governing bodies, and I do explain what the project is about and how we can apply for funding. And once I have the governing bodies involved, the projects, thank you, the projects become quite, they become embedded in the school curriculum, in the school life, and they become much bigger than they were before without the governing bodies involved. I do ask the teachers that are involved in these projects to make regular presentations to the governing body when there is their turn to do presentations, so the governors know what is going on with the school. Also, to make it sustainable, the projects, to make them sustainable, I do ask always a project manager at school and my link group to find ways to keep it going after the funding is gone. One of them that has been really successful is training the teachers to learn languages abroad. And I've been taking teachers, I don't know, more than 10 years with Erasmus funding communities to learn languages abroad. And when they come back changed, and they understand much more about the language and the culture they are learning. But also I used to do a lot of projects visiting countries where their minorities are coming from, and also the welcoming to these students that are from these countries they visit improves a lot when they understand better the social values, the culture, and so on. Then we also, on the part of the sustainable, I also ask for them to create a Twitter account, the school Twitter account, to have a page for the international work they do, and to put everything that the children produce or the project produces on social media and on the school website, to give them the place they should have, because they are really important. If you wouldn't mind moving to the next one. So, for me, my advice until now, it has been successful, is head teacher first contact. It's key. The head teacher has got to be always involved. Even if they're not part of the meetings afterwards, you should copy the head teacher in. Whenever there is some kind of miscommunication or you don't get the replies you think you should have, always involve the head teacher and ask how things are. Unfortunately, there are a lot of things happening in schools. The teachers are very busy. It takes on the roles that sometimes is very difficult to do. So it is always very good to have the head teacher on board, because the head teacher can just give a nudge and say what is going on. On the other hand, I also suggest to head teachers to include on the teachers, the teaching professionals, on their appraisal the work they are doing for international links and for languages. Therefore, at the end of the year, the head teacher has got to, I can see that you're agreeing with me, isn't it, Barry? But the head teacher needs to be on board and needs to say, of course I'm going to move you up the salary because you've been doing an amazing work, but it is there on the appraisal. And the teachers feel valued when someone is recognizing the effort, and there is a bit of money on it for them as well. And professionally they can become, sometimes they go to deputy and head teachers and they still remember the work they've done initially with me and what helped them to improve their careers. So the teaching professionals. So I don't, as I said, I create a core group. So I have ICT, working with drama, working with art, and working with someone who is chairing and is responsible, who is my ambassador. Thank you. Yes, so SLT, definitely. I also involve teaching assistants. Sometimes they are disregarded and they speak other languages, and for me, they are really important. I know I'm over the time, I'm so sorry. And then language specialists, why? Because once we have members of our teams that speak the languages of those countries, the impact of their communication skills with those countries that we are linking with is huge. And it sorts out a lot of miscommunication from countries working together. So it's always good to use them as the bridge and our ambassadors to work internationally. So last one, sorry. Oh, okay. So some photos of international work and projects that I've been developing throughout all these years. So we have dance, we have sports, we have music, and these are children that have been performing all across schools that I work with. And I make them exciting, fun, but also to be shared all the time with the local community in local events. So I can have schools performing in the town hall, outside in the streets, in the main bus stations, wherever. But it is important to send the message out there. And next one. Okay, so what I would recommend, because all the grants that are available, they keep changing, but also mention when you apply for grants, look at these ones. So global citizenship, inclusion, curriculum, sustainability, everything that you think that you can tackle to bring money into the school and then change it to our objectives, but always taking into account to everything. And then work and share the work, because we need to have feedback about everything we say and do in schools. And school in life is very lonely, and it is important to be able to share it with other professionals who value your work and who will give you a proper feedback of the work that you are doing in school that is so important for the school community and our children. And finally, how do I get my budgets in? So head teacher on board, business manager, that a lot of people forget the importance of a business manager. It's really important. I always have them taking care of my budgets. I meet with them. They know how much money I spend abroad. They keep track of all my receipts, everything. They know what I'm doing. If I need a full report, they are there to provide it. Very important. Then have a project manager or core group. Create milestones for the the projects that you are doing and have evidence of your work. So create a portfolio or an electronic folder. I do have those financial meetings are very important. So the head teachers knows how much we've got in the budget, how much is for the project management. Usually my fees are paid from the project management of the grant that we receive, and ensure that all the local authorities and local government are aware. As well, if you got an Ofsted inspection, do mention the work you are doing at international level and for languages. And I think we are on the last one. And there you are. So if you need to contact me, I'm available on my email. Do use my phone number for WhatsApp. I am very quick on answering on WhatsApp, isn't it, John? It's the quickest one. Whenever I'm abroad, WhatsApp me, and I'll try to help you as much as I can. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Louisa, much appreciated. Any questions or comments for Louisa before we move on? No, can't see anything coming through. Great. Thanks, Louisa, and again, thanks for what you do to support international work. Okay, moving from South London across to Heritage International School in Moldova, and hello to Rob Ford and Tatiana Popa. Hello, both.
Buonasera.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you. Right, Tatiana, I feel very privileged tonight, John. I'm actually working live with the great Tatiana Popa. It's like an honor. I don't normally see her because she's not here or she's off globally everywhere.
Okay, right. What am I sharing?
Right, no. See, we're already, hold on a second. Right, we might have to ask Tony to share it then if it can't. No, it's there. Sorry, guys, it's to, we'll sort the you know, head teachers and principals kind of stop learning when they get into these positions of power, and right, you got it now. Yeah. It's what teachers have struggled with in this classroom, isn't it? I need to get back in the classroom more. Right, there we go. Wonderful. Okay. Right, hopefully, hello from Moldova. It's been a beautiful autumn here, lovely sunny day. We're on our sort of half-term break as well. It's been really wonderful to listen to so much hope and positive work going on around our colleagues around the world. And this is what I love about the Global School Alliance. All these different pieces of advice and optimism. And I know that I've got colleagues here tonight from the VARCI group, the TTF 2030, our British Council ambassadors, and all across the world. So what we want to do as we sort of bring the last presentation this evening to look practically at what can we do to keep our international education going? How can we be innovative when it isn't just a UK thing or a Moldovan thing, but all of us are facing constraints with finances. And do we just give up? Of course we don't, because we know the power, the transformative power of global education, of international projects, of developing the global citizens for the future. And the late, great Ken Robinson, who's from the GSA neck of the woods, a great Liverpool boy. Ken Robinson, of course, really saw how instrumental leaders and leadership can be. And we've just heard now from Barry and Louisa and about the role of the school leadership in actually being able to be utilized to create this climate of possibility. And all of us have worked in schools where creating a climate of possibility is actually that very optimistic thing that we can do, that we can control what's going on within our school and live true to our values and what we want to deliver daily in the education we give to our students. Excuse some of the newspaper headlines there. It's very UK and US focused. But I mean, sitting on this side of Europe, where we are, and you know, I love the label Moldova, Europe's poorest country. And I look at what we do here and how education, the national education community comes together here, and some of the opportunities we create from nothing in all sectors, not just private, but with our national colleagues as well. But the picture could look really grim. And this is the kind of context we're operating in. And people would turn around and say, well, why are we learning, you know, about other countries, or why are we having to waste money on the language day, or why are we, you know, and everything's being cut. And I think we've got to counter this narrative. We've been countering it for a long time now. This is actually the stuff where we can't influence this where we are within our schools. within our position, but what we can influence is what we give the students and what we educate them with. So despite sometimes when we look at all of this, we actually need to look at how people are being innovative and share those stories and share those examples, and actually go in with the mindset that actually we can bring stuff into our classrooms to transform our learning and education. Forgive me for jumping back 20 years. You might spot a rather thinner, more handsome, younger Rob Ford there. But I remember 20, don't laugh, Tony, I can see. It's what 3 kids does to you and living on the other side of Europe. I remember 20 years ago in my school in Bristol, and we found these Polycom video conferencing cameras that were about £15,000. It was like they're sitting in a cupboard gathering dust that had been donated by whatever existed then, SSAT. And as a head of history and students asking about, you know, do students learn about World War II in Russia or Germany? And we were able to use a global dimension with very expensive equipment, but actually, and this is the point of, I think, of the talk and the session tonight, there's a lot of money out there, and a lot of people have a lot of fancy equipment, you know, the machines that go ping, but actually it's about whether you're going to use them or not, or actually if they're going to sit in a cupboard, or look at what people are doing without having to try and find a dramatic, expensive solution, or waiting for somebody to come and give you a solution. And for me, I think sometimes we have to rethink what our international education is about. And this is why I like the forums and the arenas we're in now, because we can actually see lots of different diverse ways of doing things. For many, I used to find that people thought it was a very expensive overseas visit. John and I and others in this group used to sit in Spring Gardens and open these folders, and, you know, very expensive schools had gone off to feed the penguins in Antarctica, but we didn't see how that was international education, where a school in Bradford was bringing all their communities together and all those different nationalities and cultures, and actually educating kids about diversity and people living in a global society. So it isn't always about these things. And actually, the ski trip doesn't make you fluent in Italian or German or Austrian culture. Technology has really changed so much since those days 20 years ago, when we were excited to go into a special IT room with a video conferencing camera and have somebody bridge us in Edinburgh to speak to colleagues in Germany and school kids in Russia. Nowadays, we know, I'm not going to make an argument between trad and progs on the use of digital technology in classrooms, but I have to say, when I look at what Tatiana does, and she'll give some examples now, and her colleagues in this school, that brings the classrooms around the world into our school, and Moldovans who speak 3 or 4 languages fluently, because they know they've got to be global citizens in the world, and they will talk to their contemporaries, and we bring that into their everyday educational experience. So the technology works for us, it facilitates for us, and we did a lot of work with people like National Online Safety to make sure we develop policies and culture around all of that. There's a lot of snake oil salespeople, we know that, we don't need that. All right, we've got great organizations like our Global School Alliance and others who will work with us, and we know that we can make all of this happen. Let's go touch into my biography. I will say, when I worked at Wydeen on the English-Welsh border there, and we faced, even 4 years ago, industrial action there, toxic leadership, £1 million deficit, falling roles, all of this picture of doom and gloom. But I tell you what, they were a hell of a community and a brilliant staff. There was a head of languages, and she's still there, Becky, who just went and made sure that, again, transformative learning, bringing the world into our school, making those kids in the Forest of Dean and on the Welsh borders have a global outlook. And we did that in all sorts of ways. And I love what Barry was doing there, showing the curriculum mapping and the ways that are actually sort of getting subjects to work together. I live between Kishnau and Bristol. I write occasionally for the TS and International School Magazine. And for me, working here with the schools here and doing the work we do with our national education community, we're a not-for-profit school, but actually I've really had to be challenged and rediscover, personally, career-wise. I could have been Mr. Chips and got my gold carriage clock in Wydeen, I'm sure, in 10 years, 15 years time. But actually, I needed this. And war and COVID aside, I've learned a lot about myself as an educator. And Barry talked about all his leadership having an international outlook in their CPD and how they're developed. And I absolutely applaud that. And I would like to think I've done the same thing as well with my teams. So this is heritage. We want to make sure our students can face the challenges of the future with confidence. And let me tell you, Tatiana will talk about this, but let me tell you what a few of the proudest moments I have of the students here. So when the war broke out on the 24th of February, we're in the crucible of Europe here with Russians and Ukrainians and Romanians and all this kind of complex history. And when the war broke out on Thursday, the 24th of February, by the Friday, our student council were already putting up notices for the communities to collect for refugees and anticipating this. And actually, I remember just seeing this agency. And when we talk about the future and young people, it's like, this is how it's got to be. This is the stuff that gives me hope, not people saying it's their dream to put refugees back on planes to Rwanda, but actually these type of young people, this next generation of young leaders. So Heritage, with First International School in Moldova, we're 5 years old. We're very proud of our British Council associations in COBIS and eTwinning in Cambridge, and we use that to our advantages, and we share all of that. Oh, it's on the slide. There we go. They've got this. I don't have to go all through this. There we go. Go on. Right. The power of networks. What we gain from each other is the most important thing that we have, how we develop our international opportunities. And we know, all of us who sit in various networks and have done over the years, having people that we can talk to, get advice from, projects we can join, finding something on a wet Wednesday afternoon for a class that needs a bit of stimulation. I've just been in my wonderful Varkey network today, listening to some great colleagues talk about the skills that leaders need and talking about what the challenges are in some of their communities and sharing all of that. We're very lucky here that the international community really do support. Well, we've just had Ambassador Logsdon come into school, talk about why languages were important to him as a diplomat. None of these people charge money to come and speak to kids. We connect all the schools in Moldova online, so they can also join these lectures. Next week, we've got a young Moldova from Harvard University, because one of our good role models, she gives her time up for free. And on it goes. Baroness Jan Royal, brilliant supporter of young people education, principal of Somerville College, Oxford. She will talk to young people if you ask her to, and she's a brilliant advocate of education, of girls' education. So we know how important it is to work in our networks and get the most from them. We also know that crisis is the norm. So when we feel isolated and the war's coming to us, or COVID in particular was terrible out here, and how we had to deal with it in a very limited capacity for our country, it was so useful and so sort of confidence building to actually have different people around the world to speak to and to share stories and share examples and gain some inspiration from people. Okay. So Stephen Covey, him of the 7 Habits of Leaders. If you're proactive, you don't have to wait for circumstances or other people to create perspective, expanding experiences. You can consciously create your own. If you've ever worked in post-Soviet countries, you're dealing sometimes with a mindset where they expect everything to come down from somebody in a bureaucrat's office, or with a blue stamp on a piece of paper. If you work in countries where a group of people get together, as Simon Sinek said, to create a community, and you start to look for solutions like those kids did with the refugees coming across the border on that first weekend in February when the war happened, then you really can create something transformative that you can benefit your whole school community, that we can all be inspired from and learn from examples. Next. Perfect segue, right.
Well, John, thank you. You have already introduced me. I'm a proud educator from Moldova. I have been in global education for 15 years from the very beginning of my teaching career. And I'm very proud to be working together with a lot of brilliant educators from my country and from the entire globe. So have a look at this image. It's a part of our school improvement priorities for this academic year. And you can see that included in our strategy matches with our organization, the international partnerships are very important and included. So all our partnerships are really valuable, and we understand that we can't develop global citizens and to create to develop the 21st century skills that our children need if we don't bring them this global dimension. And also here you can see that sustainability is very much part of our focus. So we have many projects, cultural projects, but also projects regarding sustainability at Heritage. This has been included, and you'll see next how exactly we are doing it. So the first platform that I'm going to recommend is, of course, eTwinning. Now that it has gained its new European school education platform, where teachers can register for free. And we are now more than 1 million educators on this platform to do global projects and to connect and to work together. So I have been the first teacher in Moldova to register, of course, before it was launched in our country as a Romanian citizen. But well, we have developed here in Moldova, and there are many ambassadors, there are many brilliant educators that do a great job in global projects on eTwinning. And here are some examples. Mrs. Colette Coton can really easily see some pictures from Adriana's class doing some activities for their project last year. You can also see my students chatting with a partner team from Czech Republic, sharing about our school, sharing about our activities, what we're proud of, and many aspects of our school. Global School Alliance is at the head of recommendations. We are proud to be a Global School Alliance school member, and we have at the moment 3 ambassadors from Heritage in the Global School Alliance. So I think we are doing a good job there, and our students really love the student councils. They are part of primary and secondary. They have run projects last year, and we are planning to do the same for this academic year. We write articles for GSA, and we had the projects with Tunisia, with Mr. Feti, and our students really enjoyed being part of all of them. So here is our student that was a candidate for GSA presidency at the Student Council. We share on national level. You can see a picture from national conference where I shared how we work with Global School Alliance, how our students have their voices heard in the Student Council globally and in the school, and now with the national student councils as well. We also participate in Global Collaboration Week every autumn with Global Ed from the United States, that is part of ISTE Connect. We are also part of Microsoft for Education with former Skype Classroom. So we have the marathon every autumn, traveling virtual miles. So this is the platform for Global Collaboration Week. The touring scheme, it was already mentioned by Wendy. I'm not going to get into it, but it is the offer for the UK. We can't get in it. I would highly recommend also T4. It is a wonderful educator community. It has tens of thousands of educators from all continents and countries. They have country ambassadors, they have T4 ambassadors. We organize all kinds of chats, conferences. So even this Saturday, we have an event online on Twitter. So everybody is invited to join, participate, and we share our experiences. And it is such a lovely moment of connecting with like-minded people, and to feel that, well, I'm not alone. If there are others that feel like me and think like me, then it is fine, because we want to see that we're doing the right thing, and we want our young people to grow as we imagine they need to for 21st century. T4 have lots to offer. The conferences that gather together experts, for example, Andreas Schleicher, or many other brilliant educators from Global Teacher Prize Award winners, and many more. The Twitter chats are very easy to participate in. You just need to be on Twitter and to use the appropriate hashtag to get involved. Climate Action Project, of course, has united this year 3.4 million students and teachers from all continents getting involved and sharing awareness about climate education and taking action to stop the climate change. And my school last year has proudly gained the School of Excellence title. And we are already the third year in Moldova and at Heritage taking part in this wonderful project. Many thanks to Corinne Timers and Jenna Williams for founding this amazing project. And not only this, this year they offer not only the 6-week project, but also a whole year program that is a 10-month climate education learning experience for grades from kindergarten till grade 12. So lots of certifications are offered for certified climate action educator, then climate coordinator, then certified climate action school. We have a community of practice for educators and school coordinators, guided school-wide data collection, monthly communications for supporting schools for parents and community. Each school participating is partnered with other schools in the world, and they have to do activities together. And with this program is to be paid for, but this year we decided that it is worth an investment, and we gave up some other investment in order to be part of this program, because we consider climate education is very important, and we are always aware of promoting and educating our children about the SDGs and about taking action. So our student council have spoken widely to the canteen ladies, to the cafe, to sharing with families and so on how to be aware about sustainability. And I'm very proud of them. That's why we need to learn and to be those voices that we need to hear in the world to have a better future. Here is another program that is very useful for educators, Transatlantic Educators Dialogue. It is an American program, but they partner 25 educators from the States and 25 educators from Europe in order to get together for several weeks. It is 2.5 months actually, every Saturday or Sunday to get together in some 90-minute webinars to discuss various topics. So each teacher is teamed with some other people, and they have to prepare a presentation once. And I have learned a lot in this. Rob has been part of it. Our academic director has been part of it. And this year we again have a teacher from Heritage being part of this program. The application is still open. So the deadline is till mid-December. So educators have still time.
It's a good eclectic collection of countries and
yeah,
educators,
I mean,
it's really...
I learned about education issues in Ireland or in the States, or yeah, so it's lots to learn.
Different leaders, it's good.
British Council partner schools, I'm not going to say much because definitely the educators from the UK know more than me, but it is a wonderful opportunity for schools to get together and to partner with other schools in the world and to work. Then the British Council schools, again, lots of good stuff there as well. And this is a platform from the United States. It is run globally. There are more than 140 countries in this collaboration program. It is called iEarn, and they offer different types of projects. So the projects are usually integrated into curriculum, so the teacher can choose what exactly they need, also aligned with their global goals. And they have learning circles. The teacher is free to choose if they want to have the short-term ones, for example, 5-week projects for beginners, or they can have 10 weeks projects, or they can have 16-week projects that are longer. And here you can see some examples of different types of projects, different topics, different ages, different languages, and so on. I'm proud to say that my colleague from Moldova, Alona Mirakri, that has experience in this platform, is present at the conference. I have seen her there in the participants. She has had more experience than me in this, but I have been in it at the beginning, and it is a very interesting program, similar to eTwinning, but it is more global and is more focused on learning circles. Well, and besides these platforms, I highly recommend involving students in various short-term collaboration activities for free, getting them to visit libraries or museums online. Some of them have ready-made lesson plans and activities for students, collaborative activities. You can see my international book club that I run at Heritage with Middleton College in North Wales, where my students post book recommendations. I receive comments and video replies back. It is a wonderful way of promoting literacy and reading, and our students love it. That was all from me. I tried to be short. You can follow us on social media if you want to get in touch with us. Thank you.
Wow. Thanks, Tatiana. Indeed, a masterclass from Moldova. A big thank you to all our speakers. And I think it's shown that we've heard it before, but we're all in this together. And I think that alliance of sharing expertise, sharing creative and innovative responses is what certainly the Global School Alliance is all about. So again, a huge thank you to our wonderful speakers. Talking of speakers, this is a global community. If there is anyone that wants to join us, we have monthly webinars and talk about your own experience. We'd be delighted to have you. So do stay in touch with Tony and I if you'd be interested in contributing to a future Global School Alliance webinar. Any questions or comments before we move on to our illustrious 5 speakers?
Actually, I can see, John, in the chat, there's a gentleman in Nigeria that was talking about obviously it's the affordability of online exchanges and the conventional in-person exchanges and how it can affect global clean economy. You know, how can you, the growing pressures to not travel and to think a bit more environmentally friendly. How should education systems approach this challenge? I don't know if Oyegogo would like to unmute and ask the question himself, or any of the speakers would like to address that. Would anyone like, maybe one of our speakers, would you like to maybe answer? I don't know if you can see it in the chat from Oyegogo.
Okay, hello everyone. Hello, Tony.
Hi,
okay. Just to assist our panelists to respond to the question is quite lengthy. Actually, the last 2 speakers talked about, it's not just about making those expensive travels. You know, digital citizenship has its own challenges. Going virtual, you cannot remove, I mean, you cannot really achieve that face-to-face benefits that does come from meeting somebody in person. So the challenge now is, how do you balance digital education, that's digitalizing education exchanges, with the face-to-face international exchanges, bearing in mind that we are trying to transit to a clean economy globally. So how do education systems now strike this balance of really making sure that this face-to-face contact is not over taxed by digital exchanges as we see today? Thank you.
Good question. Would one of our speakers like to unmute yourselves and respond?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to mention that Moldova is not part of Erasmus+, so we don't have funded exchanges in Moldova. So
our kids can't afford it. Visas are a problem.
Like the UK, we don't have any types of exchanges. Those from Moldova can confirm this. Well, in trying to balance the use of digital tools, I think we mostly use digital connections for our collaboration projects. We have experienced an exchange that was face-to-face, but it was, John probably remembers, it was funded by the British Council when our dear Pauline Sterling could visit with a group of students several years ago. We didn't manage to pay a visit back because the lockdown started. So we are not really having face-to-face exchanges. They are mostly virtual. And until we join EU or some miracle happens that we are in the Erasmus Plus, then we don't have these exchanges. So I'm happy to be in it winning. I'm happy that I can run projects. I have GSA, I have IRN. So we just take from the opportunities we have and develop our students.
I do. I mean, I get the point about the real experience, and of course, we've all benefited from being able to go to other places and put ourselves in different cultures. And I don't think it's a clear answer, but I would say that it has shifted. I would say that the work we're doing now in international education, and this is why I gave the example from 20 years ago with the old Polycom camera back in Bristol. I think it's much more sophisticated. I think it's much more immediate. I think it allows us to be more flexible. You talk about digital citizenship, which is a great sort of line to use. I also feel, I mean, we just had a trip go out to Budapest with some kids, the first time in like our first overseas trip for a couple of years. I actually felt a bit guilty about the carbon footprint, I've got to be honest. And did they have to go all the way to Budapest to do what they did for this literary festival? And those kind of questions I wouldn't have asked myself when I was taking kids around Europe or to Russia or to Canada 10 years ago. And I do think it's something we've got to think about our international education experiences. I mean, there's a proliferation of the way webinars and the way we can work together now that never existed even a few years ago. The big annual conference in London or the big annual, and schools don't have a lot of money. This is the point of the seminar tonight. And we've got disparities and inequalities in the countries in this webinar tonight, and how wealthy we are or perceived wealthy we are. So it's a really difficult one, but I actually feel that, I think Lisa's making the point here, that loads of benefits have come from that sort of ability to be more digital in the way that we're working. I'll let somebody else speak.
Lisa mentioned about the lockdown offering opportunities for getting together online more. And of course, we learned so many tools to be used, and everybody became digitally literate immediately.
By the way, Tatiana showed then about what the museums and the galleries have done. You know, big things like the New York Met or the British Museum or the Uffizi, or that really, I mean, we have even cash-rich parents and groups, say in the States or in the UK, are quite culture poor. So this actually gives an opportunity to sort of visit these great exhibitions. And it's not the same as, but do you know what, when I saw the Mona Lisa through a sea of people in a small glass thing, which hadn't had tomato soup thrown on it in the Louvre, it wasn't the greatest experience of my life, I've got to say. But talking to my colleagues online is probably more meaningful. And I think our students are starting to see this. We've got to adapt to how it's changed in the 2020s, I feel. The old school exchanges and the teacher visits, CPD visits everywhere. But at the same time, there is a place for it too. Actually, I'll tell me to shut up, sorry. Okay.
That's great, Robert. Barry, Wendy, Louisa, would you like to respond to that about the importance of face-to-face meetings versus online? You're on mute, Louisa.
Yeah, I'll just start by saying, well, reiterating what Rob said, really, in that, because if we're teaching about climate, then how can we justify putting 30 pupils and 10 members of staff on a plane to South Africa? It goes against the grain. But on the flip side, there has to be a point where you do meet in person, because I think that is very important as well. I think actual concrete friendships as well as professional dialogue happens when you meet. And an instance of this was literally the week before lockdown in the UK in March. I was out in South Africa with a group of teachers, and that cluster was solid all the way through, and are still now. They're on WhatsApp, they're emailing, the messaging, they're still doing the project. Alongside that, I had another group of schools that unfortunately couldn't do the trip because of it, and that whole partnership has fallen by the wayside because they haven't had that face-to-face. So I don't know, I'm sitting on the fence a bit here, but I can see both sides. And like I said in my presentation, it has to be the digital first.
Thanks, Wendy. We would agree. Certainly at the Alliance, I suppose it's the summation of that partnership that it's incredibly important that there are opportunities, that face-to-face engagement. So thank you for that.
I just wanted to say that I had a couple of experiences about schools. They took students abroad and they created champions for the projects. So instead of bringing a whole group of 30 children from the school, they would bring 2, 3 to UK, where they would interact as the ambassadors. And the ambassadors was the most important thing for them. So they had the role of recording everything and then going back to the school and share what they saw and their experience on school assemblies. And the impact was incredible. So there is a way to go around the lack of funds that we have. And those students were brought through events that they run across the year. They were selling cakes, they were having international nights where they were, you know, charging certain amount for the event, asking parents to contribute. So all this managed to gather the funds that they needed to come to UK and to visit the schools. And they stayed for 4 days. And we also managed to find accommodation for them where it was much cheaper. So, for example, I go a lot to nuns, to convents, you know, getting them to get my students there for free or almost for free and feed them. So I am quite creative in that sense of getting placements for them to stay without having to pay outrageous prices that are the ones in London. Another project that I came across, a company that and an ICT colleagues that created interactive projects. And I think all these international projects benefit a lot of having a good ICT team with you, because you can create a lot of interactive projects where the students can decide if they're going to visit a castle or a museum in a certain area that we would like to work with. And they have been, I think it's something of watching this space. And then, of course, as Rob mentioned, museums, schools are starting to have wonderful websites where we can visit those museums and those schools that are, I've just been in touch with Lisbon and with Spain, in Madrid, with a few main museums in those cities where they provided me everything for free. So the students can access their libraries, can access their exhibitions, just with login details that are provided by the school leadership team or by the local authority. I think that would be one way to tackle the lack of funds to bring everyone, and also due to the footprint that we have to keep the planet alive, right?
Fantastic, Louisa. Thanks for that contribution. That's fantastic. Any other contributions from colleagues about the importance of funding and any strategies that they've used to ensure that international work is protected at the initial planning process? Nothing thus far.
I think there's been a lot of amazing things shared, haven't there? So I think what we'd I think, sort of summing up, it is basic that we're all in it together. There are free stuff you can get out there, and the fact that we can collaborate. There is so many. I mean, everyone has shared so much. Tatiana, there are some great organizations, other platforms. It's not just the Global School Alliance. There's loads of people out there that we should all be working together. It's not either or. It's not. I think we should all be doing everything, to support each other. And the fact that everyone is there to support each other, so we will all back each other up and help wherever we can, which is fantastic, and signpost these great ideas and great places to go. I love the fact that there's the common vision there, the common aim. And I do like one of that was brought out as well, the fact that we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. It's what you're already doing. It's just looking at the international aspects of what's already there. So you're justifying it and explaining the value of it to leadership, because it's already what you're doing. We're not saying these are add-ons or extras. These are all international, skills they need to learn, that to learn through what you're already delivering, which is a fantastic message. And I do like, I can't remember who was pointed out now, I think, of rewarding the staff. I think it was actually Louisa. So, the staff who take on this extra responsibility, because it is extra responsibility to try and coordinate and organize this, need to be recognized and rewarded, and giving them responsibility points within that, their teacher assessment and that sort of thing is very important to show the value of it as well. It's leadership showing the values, rewarding the people putting in the effort. And even if it's just in the payback, and even if it's a little bit, it is that recognition and that encouragement to carry on, which I think is fantastic. And another thing I think we should all say is, if you don't ask, you don't get. So if you don't ask some of these amazing people to come and speak to your students, they can only say no. But I think if you just get cheeky and go out there and ask them, would you come and have a word with my school, share what you've done. I say, you probably know I talk for England anyway, so I'm quite happy to go and ask and say, please, will you do it? So just don't be afraid to ask anyone. I think they can only say no. It is such a shame that, unfortunately, like England and e-twinning, a lot of European-based opportunities have been closed off to a lot of the rest of the world. But I have found that actually you can still, people within Europe in the e-twinning can still invite partners outside of EU to do their projects with them. I don't think they can access the funding, but you can still be invited to join some of the activities still. So we're trying to, find different ways in, even though we're not part of the EU anymore, and a lot of people here are not part of the EU. But I'm sure that the people within the EU are still wanting for, connections outside of it. So I think the more connections, the more opportunities we can share with each other, the more difference we can make. I say, and I've had this conversation earlier with a colleague this morning, saying that we can't change the governmental opinions and how the national curriculum works, but if from grassroots and teachers are making a difference and showing it works, showing the importance from teachers to head to leadership, and then we're going from grassroots upwards, and I think we can all make a difference. So especially when there's so many of us out there all on the same mindset. So it's just wonderful to have these opportunities to share with everybody and for everyone to take part. This is recorded, so those of you who can't make it live, hopefully you can get as much out of it not being here in person. Was there anything anybody else wanted to add? Because I'm very well aware we've been talking for 2 hours now, and it's late in some countries.
Thanks, Tony. And we will be sharing the details of all our wonderful speakers. A big thank you to Wendy and Barry and Louise and the wonderful Tatiana and Rob. We are all in this together. We are an alliance of creative, innovative people. Educators are the most important people in the world. So let's keep sharing, let's keep collaborating, let's keep communicating with each other about all your fantastic work. Big thank you from the Global School Alliance. If you're not a member, why aren't you? Please join us. It's all free. Fantastic community. And we look forward to seeing you on the 24th of November. Yeah. So thank you to all our speakers, and see you soon.
Thank you, everybody. Yes, it's wonderful. And don't forget, actually, we've got a survey set up. So when we actually close down the Zoom, we'll put up a survey for you. So if you could also help us with the survey straight after the meeting, just 2 seconds, just to add your views and opinions on there too would help. We have actually, I did mention at the beginning, we've launched our global school transformation program, which we're trying to make accessible to schools by refunding any of the costs you've done once you've got to global level accreditation. So ask us about that. We haven't got money to give you up front, but we can definitely reimburse you and make it worth your while with the support and the mentoring that we're all working on together. So we're all trying to find ways to make it accessible and to support everyone. So thank you everybody who's participated today. Yeah, you're all superstars in my eyes. Like I say, I'm going to say goodbye to everyone now. If we can all, like I say, I'm going to stop sharing. Let's say goodbye. And when I stop sharing, if you could do the survey, that would be amazing. So thank you, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for participating. Enjoy the rest of your day. Or
Yes. Thank
Bye
you,
for now, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Gilmore.